story from an acquaintance of mine that happened in the life of her colleague. Irina Stanislavovna was known in our team as Auntie Centner behind her back. What can I say, in her 40s and a tiny tail, this lady had very, very weighty merits, which, incidentally, not in the least embarrassed. More than that, she even tried to emphasize them. Smiles involuntarily appeared on our faces every time when this bump appeared in our office in another pair of stretch pants and translucent blouse. Stanislavna was good-natured, cheerful and harmless, so the staff willingly forgave her these little quirks. One day an unpleasant thing happened in our Aunt Stanislaina's life. Her husband left. This weirdo, although she herself, speaking of him, every time replacing the letter H with another, has found somewhere a lady about 10 years older than himself and packed his belongings, rushed off to her. But Stanislavna did not intend to lose heart for long, and she certainly did not plan to give up on her happiness as a woman. Without procrastinating, she decided to look for a candidate for the hand, heart, and all her 100 and more kilograms of beauty. The way of searching chose a very peculiar, can already be described as grandfatherly. She put an ad in a local newspaper, they say, a beautiful lady with curvy forms looking for a life partner. As the contact information indicated, cell phone number. And what happened? Calls from potential suitors poured out of the horn of plenty. Most of the candidates were swept away by our maiden, some were not suitable for her age or financial well-being. Of course, Stanislavna dated several times, but even those candidates did not make a good impression. Since the ad had been placed several months ago, and our fussy-headed woman was still looking for someone. It all started with a strange dream. Or rather, a dream that was exactly repeated several times. Stanislavna dreamed that someone loudly knocked on the door of her apartment. She goes to the knocking, but to open for some reason does not feel like it. "Who is there?" timidly asks Irina. "The ad," says from behind the door a rude male voice. That's it, and send her uninvited guest to all four, but as if obeying some unknown force, she unlocks the lock. Further, according to the words of Auntie Centner, better still it cannot tell. So I open it, and look, my goodness, it's a man. Or rather, by his height and shoulders I can guess that he is a man, but I can't see his face. And he was wrapped from head to toe in some kind of black rag. Well, I think we're there. That's how my fiancé arrived to me. All my life I dreamed of such a man. Then my dear guest takes a step forward and without any invitation to my apartment comes in. I'm on him, push him out, so, trying to, but no way, I do not move it and the place is not able to. I'm scared out of my wits. That's when I wake up. Last night, girls, my nightmare came true. Or rather, it didn't quite come true, thank God. So I slept alone on Saturday and Sunday night. I sent my son to his daddy's for a visit. So I was sleeping, and no one was bothering me. Suddenly I hear somebody banging on the door. Let me tell you, I live in a new house. The yard has a metal fence. The territory is accessible only by passing the intercom. The entrance hall also with an intercom. And on the floor, in addition to apartment doors, there is still a common door into the corridor, quite strong, lockable to the key. What is the point of all this? Yes, to the fact that just take it and get from the street into our fortress is not so easy. In general, when I heard a knock in the middle of the night, I immediately thought of the neighbors, whether something happened. I waddled into the hallway, trying to button my robe on the way. For the sake of order, I ask, who's there? And from behind the door they bark, the ad. That's when I was taken aback. You won't believe it, as if I was in a nightmare. What ad? I shouted. Have you looked at your watch, dear man? Go to sleep first and then show up. My guest didn't seem to hear me, but kept banging on and on. I looked through the peephole, and there's nothing, it's pitch black. Though usually the light in our common hallway is not turned off day and night. At this point I was completely thrown into a stupor, standing there like a petrified woman. I did not know what to do, whether to call the police, or to call the neighbors for help. Suddenly I hear some noise coming from the kitchen. I ran into the kitchen and realized that someone was knocking on the window. Well, that's unacceptable. I live on the 10th floor, the balcony on the other side comes out, who and how can my window to bang? In the meantime, the door is almost shaking. It's good that the neve's strong, otherwise it would have just cracked in half. I jumped out into the hallway again, and again I heard rumbling, this time from the bedroom. Now it meant that someone was hitting the window. In despair, I fell to my knees right outside the front door and began to read prayers, everything I could remember. And what did you think? Everything went quiet. The truth was, I sat on the floor in the hallway until morning. I had no strength to get up, honestly. I dared to look out only when I heard the neighbors talking from the corridor. I crawled out of the apartment. Well, what was going on here last night? The neighbors were surprised. They were sleeping peacefully. They assured me they had not heard any noise. And the corridor was locked. There were no signs of strangers' presence, of course not a trace. In short, I packed my things, I asked my son to stay with his father for a while, and went to my mother to be on the safe side. By the way, before I left, I checked the door. At first there seemed to be nothing, but then I saw many thin, short, such hardly visible scratches. It was as if someone had used a thin nail. God knows where they came from. So that's it, my little fish, now go figure out what kind of groom came to visit me. I'll tell you one thing, I'll call the newspaper today and ask them to take the damn ad down. Irina Stanislavovna stayed with her mother for a few weeks, afraid to go back to her apartment. She has not yet found a reasonable explanation for the events of that strange night. Who knows what it could have been? Outsiders are unlikely, neighbors, too, for my colleague swears and vows that they are good people and would not joke around like that. Then again, how do you explain the banging in the 10th floor window? In general, there are more questions than answers in this story. After this incident, our Aunt Centner has forbidden to give any ads. Who knows what candidates read them? Decided to act on their own. Now she is full of hope. She even lost some weight, either from stress, or from the anticipation of great love.